What's up, everyone? My name is Panda from Lazy Panda Gaming, and I just wanted to talk today about my experience as a newer player for Genshin Impact. I started about towards the end of February of 2022, and my overall opinion of the game is very positive. It's got fun, simple gameplay, a pretty good story, but it's always going to be subjective whether you think the stories are good or not. It's got good character stories as well as lore, and the content's kept pretty fresh through constant events and patches, at least so far. It is free, so that's another positive. Now, these didn't really affect me directly because I didn't really grab any characters for a bit. I just kind of played with the base team. But the three things I've noticed as a block or that have gotten attention as, unfriendly new players are the adventure rank system, where you have character levels and then you have a sort of overall guild level, and that adventure rank level, there's a lot of content that's locked behind it until you get to a certain rank. You can only do certain things. That didn't really affect me too bad because I played through a lot, and you get in a lot from exploring and just doing stuff in the game, so it wasn't that bad for me, but it can be for some people, especially if you don't have too long to play in a day. Second would be the character region lock materials. Now, what I mean by this is, as new characters have come out, they've come from a specific region in the game, and the characters to upgrade or get more powerful, they need regions from that specific region they're from. So if a character from region 3 comes out, they need region 3 materials, and if you're on region 1, you might not have access to that yet. So essentially you could get a character you want and be unable to upgrade it. Not a great feeling. And third would be the gacha system itself. Some people don't like that system at all. You start with a base 7 characters, I think it's 7, one for each of the elements in the game. To get any additional characters, you have to pay through a sort of slot machine system, using in-game currency or real money as random chance. This can be an issue for some people because if you don't like any of the characters and you don't roll for one you like, might be a kind of turnoff. That's why a lot of people suggest to reroll. Talk about that in a second. You can clear pretty much anything in the game with the base team. If you're a new player like me, you'll have the novice banner, 1 or 2 character event banners, and the standard banner. The standard banner is always available, and there are certain characters that you can always roll off of there. The other banner is the weapon banner, which I've never used personally yet. I probably will at some point, but I don't know enough about the game gear-wise to roll for a weapon yet, so I'm saving for specific characters that I personally like. Constellations. Now, these are vary between characters, but some are very powerful, some are mediocre, but the only way you can earn a constellation for your character is to get a duplicate copy of that character from the banner. This brings me to some of my first initial issues I have with the game. So the first is, with the standard banner, there is no real way to guarantee getting a character you want besides excessive rolling. So the character event banners, how they work is, from what I understand now, if you roll a certain amount of times, I think it's up to 90, you get a guaranteed 5-star. That's not necessarily going to be that character. There is a 50-50 chance you'll get a standard character. But how it works is, you roll 90 times, say you don't get that character, you roll again another 90 times, you're guaranteed to get that character. They call that the 50-50. Now, this doesn't apply to the standard banner, which has numerous 5-stars you can get, which also shares with weapons. So if there is a standard character you want, say a standard 5-star character specifically, it's a lot harder to get that specific character, and not all of them have event banners. So I do think they should come up with a more streamlined, easier way to get specific standard characters you want, especially as that one is constantly there. But in turn, usually the fates for that one are more plentiful, you get more of them in the game. They do have a shop, and I really wouldn't mind seeing some standard characters put into the shop. I think they probably will do something like this at some point, it just hasn't happened yet. But that is where the gacha system comes in, they want you to buy the rolls. I mentioned rerolls earlier. What people essentially do is, if there's a specific character that they think is really strong, or they want to carry them through, or maybe they just really like the character. People will essentially remake their accounts over and over on this banner until they get a character they want. It shouldn't need to happen like that. There should be a better way to get a standard character, but it is what it is. So speaking of characters, say there is someone you want that gets us to one of the second roadblocks, which is the character region lock and adventure rank. Regions are locked behind the story, and the story is locked behind what your adventure rank is, your progress. Now there are some negatives and some positives to this. The negatives obviously are that if you get a character from, say, the second or third region, and you're on the story in the first, you won't be able to upgrade or get anything for that character until you unlock those regions. Now positively, it is commonly a good feeling to make progression towards something, because you do get rewards for every adventure rank increase, like other content opens up as you get through it. Now personally, I don't think the story should be locked behind adventure rank. Now the main problem with the character region lock is you need specific materials from bosses that you may not be able to access yet because you're not far enough in the story, which opens up those regions for you to get to. This turns people off of buying new characters if they're not there yet because they can't upgrade them, or it's a bad feeling to buy the character and have to wait that long to upgrade. So what I would design this around is allowing people to get a conversion material of some kind from one of the earlier places up to whatever the newest one was, depending on how far your account was. Similar to the dust that lets you change the crystals that you get from the bosses, or even the weekly item like the dream solvent from the weekly boss. But essentially what it would let you do is farm an old boss or the plants or minerals of one zone that you had access to, and it would let you convert these items into whatever the newest zones was, depending on what region you were currently at. So for example, say you just started, you're at Mondstadt, you're at zone 1. Inazuma is not accessible to you for a while. So what this will let you do is get the Inazuma character and convert Mondstadt materials, or Liyue if you're there, into Inazuma materials. And to keep this balance, I think, and it would carry forward as you go on. So once you had access to Inazuma, you could only get the Inazuma materials from Inazuma. The conversion would no longer be applied. And then it would carry forward per zone. So I think the next zone to come out is Sumeru. So say you had started and now you're up to Inazuma, but you just started Inazuma and Sumeru's out, you don't have access to it yet, but you want a Sumeru character. You could farm Inazuma materials because that's the highest zone you're currently at, and convert those into Sumeru materials. I think that's how it should work, but who knows if they'll ever do anything like this. But if a fresh player had just started, they could be farming Mondstadt for materials for that Sumeru character they want on the banner. And depending on where your account's at in the Archon quest is what region you would have to be farming for conversion materials for the new banner character. So if you had Sumeru open, you would be doing Sumeru for the materials. Now, as far as the cost, I think it would depend. If they kept it all in game, I think it would be fair to have a higher ratio. Like say you needed 3 pieces of one Mondstadt boss for one of the newer regions characters. But if they did it like Dust, where it's an in-shop only item, something like that, it would be fair to have it 1-to-1, I think. Like buy that item and get 1 drop, and you can convert that. Personally, that's how I would do it, to keep that want for new characters and not having to worry about, oh well, maybe I won't even be able to use them for a while. Now, Adventure Rank is pretty restrictive. It does lock a lot of things behind it. Well, I guess it depends on how often you play, but for me, it wasn't that big of a roadblock. It didn't take me too long to get up to, I think around 30 is when you have most of the big content unlocked. So past Adventure Rank and the character system itself, I'd say one of the more new player unfriendly things was gearing itself. There's not really anything in game to suggest what's good or bad for certain characters other than reading your talents. Say you have something that says it scales off attack, you know, okay, attack is good for me. But other than that, it's not really very good with telling you what kind of gear is good for that character. A lot of that you will have to look up online. There are some good sites. I'm still learning that myself a lot as far as like what gear is good for who and what to keep, what to throw away. That's been most of my experience so far though. I will say, as like an aside, one of the cooler things I think they've done is the story teaser trailer. Pretty cool that they teased pretty much the entire content span of the game. Not a lot of live service games do anything like this, where you kind of know all of the content that is going to come out as far as area goes and where it's going to go. And it gets better every time as the story progresses, because some of it makes more sense after you've done certain regions and you go back and see what I'm talking about. I'm going to link it here because it's pretty cool. You can check it out if you haven't seen it before. Thanks for watching though, and hope to see you guys in the Chasm and Sumeru.